Assalamualaikum everyone. This is me Rubania E-commerceWali and welcome to Soul Talk with Rubania. Today guest is a Kirk Hazlett. Kirk Hazlett a PR follow PRSA. A Western PR professional and educator with 35 plus years experience in not-profit and government communication across the USA and Asia. And he has taught at the uh, University of Tampa and serves on the PRSA Board of Ethics and Professional Standard. We are honored to welcome Professor Kirk Hazlett. So, hi, Kirk Hazlett.
Hello, and so thank you so much for inviting me today. I'm looking forward to having a nice conversation.
Welcome. How are you?
Well, I'm very, very well, thank you. It's nice and warm here in Florida, and that's a good thing.
Okay, so, Kirk, my first question: how did your journey into public relations begin?
Well, that's a very, very good question, and something I tell my students all the time is it was a complete accident. Um, my first college degree was in British literature, and I thought I would go out and teach somewhere in a university, teach literature. And then but this was in 1968, and there was something going on called the Vietnam War at the time. And I joined the Air Force, United States Air Force, thought that I would stay out of Vietnam by doing that. I wound up in Vietnam teaching English as a second language because of my degree. And Mike, I was enjoying being in the Air Force, doing what I was doing. And as I moved up in my responsibilities, I found myself doing things outside of teaching. And so I thought maybe I should get a management degree, a business management degree, because that seems to be what I'm doing. I had to take an elective where you choose anything you want to as for a course. And you always look for the easiest thing you can find. And I found this thing, and it was called Introduction to Public Relations. And I read the description and I said, I can do that one. So I signed up, got the book, started reading the book, and said, oh my, this is what I've been doing for the past 3 years in the Air Force. Just didn't know that's what it was. So that's literally how I got started. So I finished my Air Force time. I was in for 8 years and decided I wanted to leave the Air Force and find a job somewhere else. And where we were living, I was looking for advertising, and I found something that was the United States Army, but it was a civilian job, not military, civilian. And it was a public affairs internship. Public affairs is public relations. I applied for it, was accepted, and from the first minute that I started, I said, this is where I want to be. So it was it wasn't planned. It was a complete accident and the best accident I could possibly have.
Okay, that's amazing. And Kirk, your journey was amazing.
I'm
And
sorry.
okay, so my next question: what inspired you to transition from practicing PR to teaching it?
Well, it wasn't really 100% my choice. I was working at an organization and the president and I did not like each other. And so finally, it took him about a year, but he fired me. You're gone. So this is okay. And I was thinking, okay, I've been working in public relations now for, by that time, it was about 30 years. Maybe I want to do something else, but I didn't really know what. So I was sitting at home looking at advertisements for jobs and things and trying to figure, and my telephone rang. I answered the telephone. It was a friend from a university in Boston, Massachusetts, where we lived. And she said, "You're always over here talking to our students about public relations. Would you be interested in teaching?" Okay. She said, "Okay, come in for an interview." I went in, interviewed, and they hired me to teach a graduate course in public relations. That was kind of nice. So I went home and I was sitting saying, "This is pretty good." My telephone rang again. I answered the telephone. It was a friend from another university. "Would you be interested in teaching an undergraduate public relations course?" Sure. So I signed up for the two courses, one graduate at one college, one undergraduate. And the minute I walked into the classroom, I knew I was home. I remembered what teaching English in Vietnam. I remember how good it felt to be in the classroom helping other people understand what I was talking about. And now for the teaching part, I've been working now for 30 years in public relations. I've got a lot of things I can share with my students. So it was again another accident, but a very lucky accident and something that got me into the next part of my career. And I really didn't think about it until one day on Facebook, I got a reminder that said, "Congratulations, you've just spent 15 years at this university." I didn't know that. So again, good thing, and it's been fun. It's been rewarding. It's been fun, and you know, we'll see what happens next.
Okay, so amazing, Rick. And my next question: how has your experience in non-profit PR shaped your approach to communication?
That's an excellent question, and that's something that I talk about a lot. Nonprofit public relations, nonprofit organizations really depend on the public to support them. That's what they're all about. And I, what it has, I've learned, and for me, it kind of came naturally, but I learned the importance of the connection with my public and helping them to understand my organization, what we do and why it's good for the community. And one other piece of that is when I'm talking to the media, talking to reporters, I always say this when they ask me a question: I won't tell you what I'm doing. I will show you what I'm doing. And I would invite them to come to my organization, and I would literally take them into the workplace, whatever it might be, so that they could see what we were doing. But as I say, it helped me to understand, by understanding how important the connection with the community is, it helped me to shape my public relations programs to make us successful.
Okay, so that's great. And my next question: how do you balance theory and practice then teaching PR students?
Well, the theory is important. You need to know sort of the background and why things are doing. But the practice part, the practical part, that's real. This is literally when you step out into the street and here's the traffic. And so what I tell them, it's important to understand the theory, understand why, because you're going to have to sometime at some point in your career, you're going to have to sit down with higher ups, your president, whatever it might be, and help them understand why you're doing what you're doing. So understanding the theory it's we do this because, but then the practice, we're doing this because it's real life, real time.
Okay, so Crick, my next question. Can you share a memorable experience from your work with the US Army or Air Force?
I would say, I look back at it and there've been a lot of very, very, very good things that have happened. But I remember in the very, very, very beginning, work with the Air Force. And actually, this was in the Philippines. It happened in other places as well, but the Philippines, because I'm in a foreign country and I'm having to help people understand why what my organization is doing is good for them and important for them. And so what I really, really did was start an outreach program, communicating with the community that our Air Force Base was located in, and communicating with organizations. I worked very closely with the American Red Cross in Manila in the Philippines and helped them to to um, to do what they were doing. And what we saw was more and more people coming to us for advice, for support, for assistance. And it really made for a, a community feeling there while we were there. And I took that and carried it on into the rest of my career. This is what I do. And this goes back to my talking to the reporters and saying, I won't tell you, I'll show you. Yeah, I had many, many people come in and say, we didn't understand why you were important, your organization. Now we know.
Okay, so amazing. And my next question: how has working internationally in Asia influenced your perspective on PR?
Okay, could you ask that one more time? I didn't quite catch all of it.
Sure. My question: how has working internationally in Asia influenced your perspective on in PR?
Thank you. That's another good question. And again, this is
Welcome.
something that I learned hands-on in the Philippines, but even in Vietnam, I worked with the community. We were teaching English as a second language to the Vietnamese military. But my organization, we were one part of a big organization in Vietnam, and I came to realize that people don't just immediately understand what you're doing and why. They need to see what you're doing and why. So, but you also have to put yourself, so as we say, in the boots of the other person. And this was, getting out into the community, seeing what they are doing, thinking, how literally how they live, and then using that to make my communication efforts, my programs, my messages relate to them instead of me being up here and them being down here. Now we're even, and I'm talking one on one. But it's very, very important. And you really have to be willing to accept that not everybody's going to think just like you. Accept that there are differences and figure out a way to work together.
Okay, so quick, my next question: what role does strategic communication play in public service organization?
It does, it plays a very, very big role. Um, you know, how do you say, you have to be honest. You have to be seen as telling the truth. You have to be seen as someone that people who don't really know you can still come to you for advice, for assistance, or to tell you when you're doing something wrong. But ethics is open and honest communication with the world. And you can't not have an ethical focus in your communication, in your activities.
Okay, so my next question: what has been a most challenging professional experience, and what did you learn from it?
There's been a lot of them. I would say maybe one, and I think of this is when I was in Hawaii. I was the communication director for the Blood Bank of Hawaii. But what I did was, and this is sort of the long story here, is immediately after was hired, I would go out in the community, go grocery shopping or whatever it might be, and I would introduce myself to people. And I would say, I'm Kirk Hazlett, and I'm the communication director for the Blood Bank of Hawaii. Can I ask you some questions? And one of the things I would ask, and you have to be very careful asking this, but you can, are you a blood donor? Do you donate blood? And a lot of people would say to me, well, no, I don't. And I said, That's interesting. Just curious, why do you not donate? And the answer from so many people was because no one asked me. I went back to my office and looked at our communication and our messaging, and they were right. No, we said how important it was to be a blood donor to help patients, but we didn't say, please donate. So I changed the message. I did one video that we used on television and other places with a young lady who had leukemia. And thanks to blood donation and good work by her doctors, she is healthy and well today. But we told her story. And at the end of the story, we focused on her face. And she looked into the camera and she said, please give. The first time that I showed this was at a luncheon for some of our organizers, our volunteers in Honolulu in Hawaii. Almost 24, more than 24 people got up immediately after our luncheon and went to the blood bank to donate. So there it was. But goes back to me asking people, do you? Why not? And recognizing that here's something we can fix. We fixed it and we succeeded.
Okay, amazing, Craig Hazlett. And my next question: what are the key ethical challenges in public relations today?
I'm sorry, but can you ask it one more time? I'm not exactly sure what you asked there.
Sure, Craig. My question: what are the key ethical challenges in public relations today?
The challenges, is that what you're saying? What are the challenges?
Like, what are the key ethical challenges in public?
I'm sorry. This one, I'm not
Okay.
sorry. Oh, I beg your pardon. Yes. The biggest challenge is this. People everywhere know what you are doing when you do it. Communication. When I started in public relations, we did not have a computer. So when I dealing with the media, when things happened, it was almost literally a one-on-one. A reporter would have to come to my office and see what's going on. Now, just like you're on one side of the world, I'm on the other side of the world, and we're talking to each other. So when something happens, people everywhere know what happened. And not always will they understand why it happened. And this is the ethical challenges part here, is you have to be willing to step up immediately and say, this is what happened. This is what we are doing to fix it. And this is what we plan to do in the future. And people will see you're being honest. I when I work with back when I was working in public relations, and actually when I've been teaching, I've given advice to presidents of different universities, is I tell them, you must be visible. You must be seen. You must be recognized as the honest, ethical leader of a good organization. But it's a challenge because one last quick example here is I was on vacation in Taiwan several years ago, and made a comment on Facebook about having met someone in a coffee shop and had a good conversation, and it was really a good thing. But I referred to this individual by the wrong pronoun. Someone back in America, in the United States, 5 minutes after I posted this comment, said, "You are stupid. You don't know what you're talking about." Just like that, he knew what was going on. So the ethical part of it is people are going to see what you say, they're going to see what you do, and they're going to challenge you if you are not doing or saying the right things. So my advice to leaders and to everyone is be honest from the beginning. Don't have to go back and fix something later on. Do your best now.
Okay, and advice is so good. And my next question: how do you see the role of ethics in modern communication?
Once again, and it goes back to just what we were just talking about, is it's there. And people, and I know this because even when I go into the classroom and I teach real time stuff. I don't teach what's in the book. I see you can read the book, but we're going to talk about what happened today, yesterday, whatever it might be. And the public they're watching, and we've had enough bad actors, if you will, people who want to do the wrong thing, that people are very suspicious, very cautious, very skeptical. They doubt that you really mean what you mean. So you have to be from the very, very beginning. And I watch when I watch the news, I literally look at the face of the person who's talking. Does he or she really believe what they're saying? Or are they saying it just to make me happy? Ethics is so good. If you're committed to doing the right thing, people will see that.
Okay. Okay, so my next question, can you share an example of a time when ethical decision making made a big difference in a campaign?
I had one experience, and it was again was in Hawaii, um, where we had something, a legal case, something that had happened that was completely an accident, but it people could very easily think the wrong thing. And my advice, I did two things. As soon as I knew that this was going to be in the news, I called my research agency. I said, I want you to do a survey. I want you to talk to people in the state and find out what they're thinking. And so overnight, we did a quick survey of the entire state, about 2,000 people that we talked to. And we were able to see that, yeah, people were kind of not sure what was going on, but they weren't really, really upset. They just wanted answers. So I went to my higher up, my boss, the president, and I told her, here's what we need to say. We need to say this now. So she understood, she agreed. We talked to our attorney, to our lawyer, just to make sure that the wording wouldn't get us in trouble. And we immediately went out to the media and made our statement. A reporter called me. Kirk, I just got your statement. I want to do my newscast out at the blood bank. Cool. Come on out. So he came out for the afternoon to evening news, did a report on what we were doing, very positive, supporting. Then he looked at the camera and he said, now, if you will excuse me, I have an appointment to donate blood. And the camera followed him as he walked into the blood bank to make a blood donation. But what we did, this was the right thing to do at the right time. If I had waited 2 days, people would have already decided, well, they don't want to talk about this anyway, something, they're hiding something. But no, we're there. We're open. We're honest. We're ethical.
That's amazing. And quick, my next question: how is important is cross culture communication in global PR work?
Once again, the world, the, the world is a and cultures today. It's not 100 years ago when over here was one culture, over here was one culture. No, we're all together. So you really, really have to understand what other people are thinking and how they see what you are doing and saying. Whenever I travel anywhere in the world, I make it a point to go out and meet with business people just to get an idea of what are people thinking here. Now, yeah, I'm not working in public relations anymore, but it's still something that I'm interested in and I want to see. But you really have to understand that we the different people see different things. And I give one last very personal example here. My wife is from Asia. All of her family are in Asia, or some of them are here in the United States now, but most of them are, from the very, very beginning, I had to understand how to communicate so that we were on the same level. It's very, very important. And even more so in today's world where, again, we're all connected in so many different ways.
Okay, so quick. My next question: what advice would you give young people entering the PR field today?
This has not changed in the all of the time that I've been in public relations. My advice, but for students particularly, figure out what it is that you love doing and make that yours. And I've got one story I tell all the time. I love to tell it. And one back in Massachusetts when we were still up there and I was still teaching, um, I had a group of public relations students who had taken my public relations classes. We went to a meeting of the local public relations society chapter and had presidents of three public relations agencies talking about what they expected from their employees and how important the different things. We're leaving the meeting, and one of the students came over to me and she says, I need to talk to you. And I said, okay, what? I don't think I want to do this public relations stuff anymore. And I said, okay, what are you interested in? And she said, well, my major is communication public relations. My minor is social work. I love social work. I said, make that your focus. So she changed, made social work the degree for that her major, kept a minor in communication. We're talking now 15 plus years later. She is a very senior level social worker in a big hospital in Boston, Massachusetts, doing what she loves doing. So what I tell students is figure it out. What is it that you really, really, really love doing? I encourage internships. Do don't just do one internship. Do two, do three in different areas so that you can see. Do one in a nonprofit. Do one in a public relations agency. Do one in a regular business. See which one of those feels best for you and make that your focus. But so I work very closely with them, with students to help them get a start in this thing. And they know that if they're having a problem, I'm always on social media. I get a message that says, Kirk, I need to talk. Okay, fine. And we talk about it. And sometimes they understand, they realize that they were seeing it the wrong way. Sometimes they realize that, yeah, this was the wrong choice. I need to do something else. But just that you need to, don't hide in your corner. Talk to people, talk to your professors, talk to anybody who has experience in areas that you're interested in. See what it's like, and then go for it.
Okay, that's great advice. And thank you so much, Professor Kirk Hazlett, for sharing your remarkable journey, your wisdom, and your deep insight of ethics and leadership and the future of public relations. Your experience across non-profit work, global communication, military, public, and service and education was truly inspiring, and your commitment to ethical and responsible communication is a powerful message for professional and student. And we appreciate your time, your contribution to the PR community, and the impact you continue to make as a mentor and educator. Thank you once again. It was an honor speaking with you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate having this opportunity and hope you have a wonderful rest of the week and day.
Welcome and thank you so much for joining me.
Okay, thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.